Morning. So it's Veterans Day in a couple days, and even for those who, don't trust our government and really question why we've been involved in some of the more recent conflicts we've been involved in, and just in general aren't supportive of war for really any reason. Even for those people, I think there is something in us that kind of quickens and responds to the very basic human desire for freedom, even over a long life. And that the idea of young men and women choosing, especially in some of the more clear-cut conflicts and the more Second World War, American Revolution, deciding that I need freedom over a long life, that if I choose fear, I will suffer more than if I go and I fight, and even if I die. That it's to live in fear is not worth it. And I feel that, I made a video yesterday. I was feeling some fear the last couple of days, and I don't often feel that consciously. And some stuff that maybe I've been pushing down came up, and it's such a contrast because to feel myself back on the other side of it, it's a good reminder of how shitty it feels to be in fear. And, people have recognized that throughout history. That fear is limiting, and I don't want to be limited. I want to be free. And that everybody wants that, and that everybody needs that. And so there's a time to remember the sacrifice of those who have chosen, who have had the courage to fight for freedom. And again, even when maybe you think fighting wasn't the way to go about it, but the value of freedom, even over a life without freedom or a life in fear, there's something about that means everything to us. Because we inherently know that that's where joy resides, in freedom. And I'm talking about this because I think there's an interesting relationship here, an opportunity to recognize for all of us, those of us who aren't enlisted, there's a lot happening in the world right now. There's a lot of issues, social issues, international issues of terrorism and things we can decide to be fearful about. Immigration things, the caravan at the border of people looking for asylum. Actually, this video was sort of birthed from thinking about Veterans Day and then thinking about an argument I read on Facebook below a post, one of those arguments, a post probably about Trump's stance on the people looking for asylum. And, there was a very spirited, somewhat heated argument. And the person that really didn't want to let them in, it was so easy to see, like, the fear of, well, we can't do this because this will happen. I'll suffer. Others will suffer. There's not enough. And if I want to extend compassion in this way, I'm going to suffer. And so that's a fear-based reaction. And what I think some people forget is we suffer more when we're afraid. That when we love, we're free. When we love, we're free. And look, I'm not an expert on any of these issues, and I understand that there is a way to manage it. I'm just talking about our internal stance, our internal reaction to these different things. We can choose to protect ourselves out of fear and protect, our system, which we may see as free. Like, we have a free society, other people want into that, and we feel like maybe it would crash. But I'm talking about internal freedom, and that's always found in love and not in fear. And were we face to face with refugees of any kind in any part of the world that don't have the basic things that we have, food, water, shelter, warmth, protection from the elements, some semblance of a feeling of safety, we would want to extend that to them. But it's easier from a distance to not feel that. We're not up close with it. And so it's easier to be pulled into a reaction of fear. And I'm not making a judgment about either stance. I'm just saying it was so easy to feel this particular person's fear. And his stance was from fear. And yet, that's in choosing to quote unquote protect himself. My feeling is you'd feel better risking the collapse of the entire social infrastructure, if that's what it meant. If in an act of compassion, we just wanted to feed, clothe, and help people, that even if the whole thing crashed and we suffered and people died, we would, it's the same principle as the whole Veterans Day thing. It's the same thing. How do we want to feel? How do we want to live our life? How do we want to go out? We're going to go out someday. We want to go out in love and compassion, in the inner freedom that brings, the inner fire that brings, the inner passion and purpose that brings? Or do we want to go out in a limited state of fear and protection? And I honestly don't think that. I honestly think that love expands us and opens us up to higher intelligence and more solutions than we have from a limited place of fear. So were we to act from a place of love, there would be ways of managing things and working situations that looked unworkable from a place of fear. So it's just interesting and food for thought that there are so many people that get that Veterans Day means so much to them, rightfully so. Yet are not choosing within themselves necessarily with some of these social issues. They're not choosing that same thing, that same freedom that love and compassion bring when it comes to some of these social issues. Fear, instead, is running the show. And protection, survival, is running the show. No judgment of it. Been there. Had those exact same political opinions for a very long time. Very long time. Just some food for thought. Have a fantastic day.